I'm on Discord talking to this guy, and I have one of the most profound conversations I've ever had with somebody in my entire life, to which he's kind of talking to me, and he starts telling me about himself. And I make like a little joke, like kind of like I say like some sort of meme or something. And then he sort of just like pauses for a second, and he says, "Man, I didn't really appreciate that." And I was a little confused. I was like, "Oh, this guy must be like easily offended or something." But then he sort of explains himself in a really intelligent way, and he says I don't like this thing where everything has to be like ironic all the time. Everything's kind of like a joke, you know, as if like everything that we say to each other is meaningless for the sake of jokes, or for the sake of sort of listening and just throwing it away. I want to have a real conversation with you. I exist, and you exist too. This is real when we speak. I don't want this conversation to be meaningless, because this means something to me, right? And it just completely changed my perspective on everything. I've been thinking about this conversation for months, ever since I talked to that guy. It's been almost a year, and I've been reflecting a lot of just how like correct he is. You know, it really started in middle school, only about what, like 10 years ago, 10 or 12 years ago. I was born in 1998, and everything is just like about jokes. Like you can't have like a serious conversation. You can't like care about anything. Everything's always like, "Yeah, dude, you already?" He's like, "Yeah, dude." Yeah, dude. Yeah, all right, dude. It's like, I get it, man. It's like everything's funny, everything's like ironic. I just always felt like the odd one out, because it felt like everything was just a joke. I felt this like deeply when I was in middle school, and I sort of just forgot about it. When I got to high school, everything was just like yardy, like this, like everyone's like this, everyone's just kind of like this. Everyone's like, it's like whatever, and it's even worse now. I graduated high school. I can't imagine how it is now, but it really is a testament to or a reflection of the growing sense of meaninglessness within our generation. We live in a generation in which nothing means anything anymore. Nobody can talk to each other without like brain rot. Everybody's just kind of like stuck on their phones and sort of just quotes sound bites to each other all the time. Everything's a joke. We live just kind of in misery. Nobody misses anything. Nobody cares about anything. Or like what we care about is just kind of like a selective group of politics, or like State of the Union kind of stuff. You know what I mean? It's like there's nothing to care about anymore. There's no more serious conversations anymore. There's no more like there's no more like heart to heart conversations. It's a rarity now to like go up to somebody and have like a heart to heart conversation. It stresses us out. It makes us really anxious. We live in a generation of anxiety because of just how profound the meaninglessness is within the atmosphere of the world. And it's something that really touches to my heart. That maybe like I started this channel in order for at least something to be real. I try to like kind of get past the barriers of like irony, or kind of get past the barriers of simulation or whatever, or of like hypotheticals, of like omission. It's like this podcast that I do, and this channel that I do, is about like me like really taking this concept like God, Jesus, super real to me. I pray every day. I read my Bible every day with encounters, divine encounters with him every day, and people all over the place every day, and nobody talks about it. Nobody actually like talks about it. Everybody's just kind of like mute. Everyone just kind of just stays to themselves. And when I go up to somebody and say, hey, like something about God, and he's like, God isn't real. I'm just like, what the heck? I live in a community where everybody like knows that God is real, and I can't even talk to you about like the realness of God or the realness of Jesus, because I live in a generation in which if I tried to like talk to you about like something that means something real to me, to you it actually means nothing. I'm essentially mute. Hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. The solution, man, is maybe we can like, it's kind of like, what is it, a leap of faith? Kierkegaard says it's like resignation of the cringe. Like, who cares about cringe? You know, I want to feel something. You know what I mean? And maybe you're really clever and you know about pop culture, and you'll be like, well, we do care about remembering at least. We care about like Nickelodeon, like old TV shows. We care about nostalgia of like 90s music or early 2000s music, like electric guitars and synthesizers and Beastie Boys hip hop. Like, it's like awesome, man. Like, I also miss like radio and glass and stuff, you know. But what about grass? What about blue skies? What about clouds? What about when there were still like green trees, or when there was still like yellow bees, you know? What about when like outside like felt more vibrant, you know? What about when like back when like you could play outside more, you know, when kids would play outside, you know, that was really cool. When like I could play outside now, like my little cousin, he can't play outside. Nobody plays outside anymore, you know. Or like, what about like when, you know, you could go to like the toy store or whatever, or maybe you could go to the arcade, you know. What about back when you could like actually like live life? Back when life existed. What about that time? Do we actually care or remember, or are we just like working with the commodity of nostalgia? Nostalgia as preserved by TV screens and by radio. I mean, what a nightmare. And maybe the even more clever Marxists will be like, well, yeah, this is just the progression of late stage capitalism. Like, this is the state of the world by the progression of dialectical materialism. I'm like, man, you are the greatest manifestation of this nightmare that I've ever heard in my life. I have never heard of a more apathetic individual than you, Mr. Dialectical Materialist, where you've even made a commodity of grief. You've made a commodity of of solution building. You've made like a commodity of your protest, of your angst. You know, like let's get it together. You know, like not everything's about like cogs and screws. Not everything's about like production. Not everything's about work. Not everything is about resources and metaphysics and Lenin and Stalin. Not everything's about your murderous, psychopathic, genocidal philosophers, man. Not everything's about you. You know, not everything's about how smart you are and how great of solutions your thought leaders have come up with. You know, it's the worst. You're the worst type of person to talk to about this kind of stuff. Because every time I try to present a problem, at least within the dialectic of my mind, I always have to consider this dialectical, diabolical, materialist philosophy about like thinking. And this is what's operating within the government right now. It's operating within the government and on the internet. People considering like, yeah, like let's just like grieve about like materialism. It's like, no, man. For me, this is about This is more than just about like the black and white cogs of society. You know, it's about, you know, people's souls. It's about the loss of souls. It's about the loss of color, right? And this is the irony that I'm talking about. It's always a compromise between like my spiritual mind and your materialist mind. And I'm trying to assert something very serious. You're always like the first one to sort of negate me and judge me based on some sort of like modern 20th century philosophy that you've developed that's completely negated my ancient historical mind that has something important to contribute. I need to pierce the veil of your irony, of your conscience, in order for me to even get through to your heart so that we can have a conversation. So maybe we can go somewhere and be human together and not just a couple of robots like debating. Like it's like I'm debating chat GPT, you know. It's like, no, I want to be real again. I want to exist again.